I've gotten a lot of questions about the new V4 editor and how the code looks. Like, are there still a lot of divs? And do these CSS classes actually make the code better? Well, I'm happy to report that Elementor's bloated code problem is getting fixed. Let me show you. I built the same exact sections inside both the current editor and inside of the new V4 editor. And what we're going to do is take a look in the front end, start off looking at the divs and the DOM. And this is where we can see a very, very clear difference. Here is the current editor. And if we go in, we can see our section, but then this is where we start to see the divs coming in. And we have two divs wrapping each one of our text elements. And then for our button element, we're going to have three divs wrapping that. Now, I do got to say, compared to Elementor a few years ago, this is light years ahead of what we used to have. It was about triple the amount of divs. I might be exaggerating, but it used to be a lot. And look in here, you can see all of the divs. They do start to add up here. And when we go to the next section, again, we got more and more divs that start to wrap everything, especially when we start to get into our grids and inner containers. This is where we can start to see the divs and the DOM really start to build up. Now, let's go to the same exact build inside of the V4 editor. Right here, we have our banner, and then we have our section, and inside of our section, we have 0 divs. This is clean code. This is what we want to see. This has nothing wrapping any of the text or the button. And when we go into the next section, we will start to see some, but again, around the text, we don't see any. Now I do have an inner container for my grid, and inside here, we start to see some divs because we are using inner containers, and their SVG element has one div that wraps around it. I also tested the image. The image has no divs, but so far, this is all we're seeing, and this is normal. It's natural. There should be some divs, which is okay, but we just don't have a lot of them wrapping. So the HTML, the DOM, the divs, super clean. This is the kind of output that we would see inside of something like Bricks. Now let's take a look at the CSS with the classes, because this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. I'm going to go back over to my current editor, and let me detach this because it's just a lot easier for me to use with this floating. And I'm going to go into one of my elements. Let me actually look at my title here, and we're going to take a look. Now we have a lot of these post CSS files with generated strings, so this gets built up, and as you are building your Elementor sites, we start to get a lot of these CSS files. Now, one thing I did notice when I was digging in here is that there are no more IDs. As you can see, they're all classes. So Elementor has come a long ways as far as building systems that no longer use ID-based styling. They have systems that convert everything into classes. But what we end up with are a lot of these kind of classes with these generated class names, you know, this long string of letters and numbers. And if we were to go into the CSS file, again, it's not messy, but we are seeing a lot of these, you know, long strings that just start to get generated. Now, this is a whole lot better than what we used to have in Elementor with the IDs, which is basically just a very bad practice to have. So they have done a lot better inside of this regards. But as you start to build out your site, you will start to get a lot of these post-CSS files, and these start to build up and they start to grow. Now, keep this in mind, CSS does not like slow down websites. They're like a drop of sand in the whole, how long does it take for the website to load? But still, we want to have everything clean, especially when we want to bug fix, when we just want that clean code output. And when we do look at the new CSS editor, that is what we're seeing. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I am going to go to my header. Let me detach this because it's just easier to see. And I have my H2. We have the class that I have given it, no weird generated name. And now we got our global class file. And if we look at it, let me scroll all the way up. These are organized. These are very clear. We could go in and it is organized based on how I organize my classes inside of my class manager. It is very easy to see if I need to do some bug fixes or make some updates. It's all right here. And again, we aren't getting a bunch of random generated files and classes. Instead, we are getting just this clean code output. And ideally, this is all we should really need. Now, if I were to go back over here to my elements, I could see I do have like still one of those post CSS files. And this is basically bringing on some default styles, but also our globals, which these are going to be replaced. At least I am predicting that our globals are going to be replaced when we have variables built into the new V4 editor. This is a huge update, and this question actually came up quite a bit. The question came up, well, if you're creating a lot of classes, let's say you create a class just for border radiuses, isn't that going to add more code? And the answer is no. It's going to create a token. It's going to create something that could be reused, easy to identify, and it's going to keep it clean and organized versus the current way when we do go into an element, add a border radius directly to it inside of the editor. Well, it's not going to style it based on the ID like it used to do, but it will create or add to a generated class that, you know, kind of just gets lost in the shuffle. It gets mixed in there. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it is nowhere as near as having a clean CSS framework with our own classes, which is why I want to continue creating videos like this and updates for the new V4 editor, because I do see this as a powerful step forward for Elementor users. Also would love to hear your feedback. What are your thoughts? And do you have any questions about the new V4 editor? Let me know inside of the comments. That's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.